Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Temple here at After Awakening. I'm here with Dr. Fatima. Dr. Fatima, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Ryan. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. It's just another beautiful day in California, right?
It sure is. I'm looking out and it's pretty calm, no winds, and the sun is shining, and everything is so peaceful right now.
Absolutely. So we'll begin with reading a bit about your bio just to introduce you to everyone.
Okay, fair enough.
You are the founder and principal of Whole Mind Power Consulting.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
you're a spiritual teacher, a coach, professional and personal. You help people choose and pursue a more holistic lifestyle that
Hmm.
fulfills the spirit, the heart, the body. And it really seems that you are extremely entrepreneurially focused. You've worked with incredibly esteemed clients, Raytheon, all kinds
Hmm.
of companies and organizations here in Los Angeles. So thank you for all the work that you've done for the city. It's great.
Thank you, Ryan. It's been quite a rewarding experience. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to work with some incredible people and challenges that they had, and most of all, for their trust, in working with me.
Absolutely. So I wanted to start also with this is straight from your website, by the way.
Mhm.
It's what is spiritual development. I think this is a great foot to begin this conversation on. Spiritual development is the process of discovering your true essence, your true nature, who you truly are. The I you identify with stands for information. All the information you gathered and chose to make up who you are. But all this information is really not you. In fact, it is not your true you. Spiritual development is unlearning and letting go of all information to discover who you truly are. The need for spiritual growth can come in subtle, quiet, and persistent ways, which is often hard to discern and unsure of what action to take. There are signs and stages to pay attention to for one's soul to emerge and grow. I love
Mhm.
that. So, how did you have your spiritual awakening? For many of us today, this is a popular thing. Spirituality and meditation is popular now, right?
It
So
sure, yeah. Hmm.
30, 40 years ago, it was not. It was not.
Hmm.
So how did
Hmm.
this happen for you? How did you come into this whole really transformative lifestyle?
That's a really good question. And listening to you read what I wrote in my website, it was like, wow, I actually wrote that, and you know how it is, you write things so from way back and then somebody reads them back to you. And for me, I didn't know it. For me, it wasn't, oh, I am now seeking my spirit. It wasn't like that at all. It was just as I mentioned, it was subtle. It was this feeling of something missing inside me from all accounts of the kind of the material world, especially in the corporate world. I could probably check the boxes. But deep inside me, I knew something was missing. I didn't know exactly what it was, but I knew I had to go find it. So I would say you could call me at that time a seeker. And I kind of followed more. I wasn't truly, it wasn't a cerebral process. It was more things would show up and I would just follow them. Probably the most incredible time in my life. It was about a decade and it was full of adventure. I don't think I would do what I did then. I don't know that I would do them again. But I would say this longing, this something missing, this unidentifiable, but for certain it was something I needed to find. It was almost at no matter what it took. And nowadays, and even back then, it's really hard to discern it because there's so much coming at us, uh, and different kinds of demands. I know it was for me since I was raising my son at that time and trying to navigate myself in the corporate world, trying to prove myself to people. And so to really listen to this inner voice, I literally had to take myself out of that work environment. And so I traveled to different uh, places, and foremost to the first was in New Mexico. And from there, I met a Native American Lakota teacher, and then a Mayan shaman, and then the one that I studied the longest, John Milton, uh, going on sacred passages, time in nature. The longest that I was gone and sleeping in a tent was for 49 days by myself. And uh, did what's called a vision quest at that time, actually, twice during that time, in an 8-foot circle for 4 days and 4 nights. No food, just water, no clothing except for a sheet and, excuse me, and no tent. It was under the shade of 2 juniper trees.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So you stayed under the rites of passage type of work that you were
Hmm.
doing. You lived in a
Hmm.
tent for 49 days.
Hmm. Yep. Yeah. Uh, yeah.
That is profound. I want to know more about this. Were you cooking your own food or were you fasting?
Um, when I did the vision quest, I fasted, no food, no, just the water. But during the 49 days, I brought a single burner, and there was a stream about, oh, quarter of a mile from my tent. And so I would walk down to the stream and carry, I don't know, 3 gallons of water behind my back, and then boil that. Uh, and so that's where I got my, water to drink. Brought some canned foods. Uh, that's it. I mean, it was very minimal. And what's interesting is I could live on that. I lived on that. What do you mean? I lived on that. It was the purest experience. I really, on my last, I'd say the last 3 days up in that Crestone Mountains, I didn't want to come back. I was crying. I was like, I didn't want to leave. And it took another week to, it's called re-entry. So this was a sacred passage with John Milton. During that time, he would come and visit uh, me once a week to check on me, make sure I was okay. But for the most part, it was me and nature, and doing some of the Qigong practices to connect with energy.
That is an incredibly long period of time to do that sort of thing. What was the aim of that vision quest? What was the goal of
Hmm.
that? What did you walk away with?
What's interesting is that there were two things. One is I really wanted to receive a vision. I needed something to guide my life. Like, why am I here? What's the purpose of my life? What am I moving towards? And I wanted a vision from heaven, and that is why I did the 49 days, and then specifically the vision quest for 4 days and 4 nights. I also wanted to offer something for my son who was growing up then and undergoing a lot of challenges on his own. And I wanted to pray for him
Mm.
and and you know ask heaven, ask the higher powers to guide him, uh, take care of him. Those were my two goals for doing the 49 days. Mm,
And
yeah.
would you say the vision came?
No, at least not the way I thought it would come.
Right.
It was, in fact, um, the the second vision quest, the second 4 days and 4 nights, where I thought, oh, this is where I'm going to receive the vision. I went back to my tent. I was kind of disappointed, I thought, oh, now what am I supposed to do? I didn't get what I thought I would, but in a way, I knew better. Deep inside me, I felt it was not this thing that's coming down with trumpets and like this big awakening, as the title of your podcast. Wasn't that at all for me. It was somehow much later
Mm.
than that, and through different means that my vision came to me. Yeah. So, and
Fantastic.
in some ways, it's, I think maybe because I am such a vision oriented person, I really am. Uh, at the same time, it's not this thing that suddenly appears in the sky. It is truly something that comes from inside, and slowly you start to live the vision. Yeah.
That's a wonderful way of putting that. Would you say that you initially did the quest and you sought this guidance? I remember you saying, "Where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to
Mhm.
do with my life?" Some people describe a voice inside that begins to emerge after
Mhm.
these types of vision quests and after this type of deep work. Would you say that's something that manifested for you after some time, that guidance you sought appeared? It just didn't appear the way you thought it would. How did that happen?
And that's a really good point because often it is described in terms of a voice. And we all have preconceptions of what a voice is, right? And that is often from the physical realm of hearing something. And that may be true for most people. For me, it was more of a feeling rather than hearing something. It was more of this feeling, much like that feeling of finding my soul. It's that kind of feeling that uh, what came up for me, and so I'm kind of always wanting to connect with that. And to this day, that's pretty much how I make my choices and find a direction, because I'm so cerebral in many ways. I've been trained to work with uh, more the left brain, and I think that a lot of this soul work is is truly, it's both, but for me it's more dominant with the right brain. uh, yeah. So not a voice per se, but it's it's this feeling. Although Ryan, the first 4 days, 4 nights, and it was right next to this huge boulder. And when, in my case, I may be different for other people. In my case of 4 days, 4 nights, no food, no clothes, no sleep, I got into a very altered state. And so this boulder, what what I saw was an old altar. And then I still saw a lot of what they placed on top of the altar. And one afternoon, it was so hot, and there were insects biting me everywhere, and it was awful. I started cursing. Was just like, what am I doing here? Why am I doing this anyway? I mean, it was just like this, this part of me, this anger, this part of who I am just came out. And then I got connected to my purpose. That was when it was as if a voice said to me, remember why you're here. And the first vision was quest was really for my son. And when I connected to that, it was like, oh I yes, I am here for Jill. And it was like I just completely surrendered. Okay, whatever, bite me, whatever, I'm here. It was like a total surrender. And seriously, I don't know how long, but soon enough, I felt this refreshing breeze go through me. It was so quiet, no more insects. It was like all peace and calmness. It was just
Amazing.
that feeling of surrender. It was like, and I think I always thought about purpose and then the process, and it's like it was, it was like yes. So when we connect to our purpose, and it's like no matter what, okay, if it takes all these mosquitoes, like go for it. And then it kind of like passed. Uh, yeah,
So
that's
that feeling of connecting to the soul that you described, what was that like, and how did you know that that's what it was? This is a question that some people have. They're like, oh, how do I know? They're still doubting, right? But it's my opinion that when it happens, it's really undoubtable. So can you describe what happened
mhm.
when this
Yeah,
connection finally solidified?
it is truly indescribable, but it's just like you just know it. And I'm sure people have experienced that at some point in their lives, when you just know it. This is it. You don't, there's nothing to question, nothing to be skeptical about. You just like know it. So for me, it was like knowing it. When I was connected, it was like that was when the voice came where remember why you're doing this. And it was like, oh yes, it is for Joe. It was just that moment of connection. So I would say my soul reminded me of my purpose. I could say that, and I will say that. Um, I have had so many experiences that can say that it is that deep knowing beyond the rational mind. And uh, and you trust that. It's like you just ride that. And for me, it's almost, that is the only thing. Nothing else will matter. That is the only thing. Uh, One time I was studying with the Mayan shaman, and he wanted me to join this pilgrimage that he and his group started from Canada, and they were on foot all the way to Honduras. And
That
I'm
would take, how long does that take? A
uh,
year?
I don't know how long, but I met him when they went to LA, when they were here in LA. And I was a colleague of mine after my encounter in New Mexico said, "Oh, by the way, you might be interested. There's a Mayan shaman who's coming to do a workshop here in LA." And so I said, "Oh, it sounds interesting." And so I did go. And at the end of the workshop, he said, would I be interested in joining him in Copan, Honduras? I said, yeah, that sounds interesting. And I said, but let me check my schedule. Anyway, make a long story short, I was scheduled to teach, so I wasn't going to be able to go. 2 days later, that class was canceled, so I could go. And so I did. And it was really from Friday to, I'm going to say just over the weekend. So I flew to Guatemala, took the bus, and it was going to be to Entrada de Copan. And the bus ride alone, I'm from the Philippines, so I was kind of familiar with buses with chickens, at top of the bus. But what I wasn't prepared for was, as we go up the mountain, we were stopped by soldiers and asked for everyone to, get off the bus. I didn't know what to think. So of course I did with the rest of the passengers, and then they checked the bus, and then we went back on it. And there was beautiful scenery, and then finally we get to Entrada de Copan. I thought that was where I needed to go. And the driver says, no, this is Entrada de Copan. This is not Copan yet. Copan is another 2 hours. By now it was like 6 in the evening, and it was dusk, and it was misty. And I said, well, how do I get there? And he said, there's no more bus. You have to wait until the morning. I said, no, you don't understand. This was my naivete, of course. I had to be there. I had to be at the ceremony. He looks at me like, this crazy woman. And he just, and I get off the bus, and this young man says, I have a taxi. I will take you. I said, okay, how much is it? And he said, $20. Okay, I can handle $20. So I go and I decide to sit in the front of, it's a Volkswagen. It wasn't a taxi, it was a Volkswagen, a Beetle. And I sat in the front. I gave him the piece of paper that Hunbatsman, the Mayan shaman, said I need to meet him and his group at this hotel in Copan. And I said, do you know this hotel, to the young man? And he said, yes. I said, could you call them, please? And he said, yes. So he drives, gets to this house, and then 5 minutes comes back and says, no telefono, not working. I said, okay, but you know this place, right? And he goes, yes. I said, okay. So he goes, he drives up the mountain, I don't know, half hour or 45 minutes. He stops and two uniformed soldiers get in the back of the car, of the beetle, the bug. That was when like reality set in. And I thought, friends or foes? I was by myself. I now have three guys driving up the mountains. I had no clue if we were going in the right direction or not. Seriously, I could have been raped, killed, thrown by the mountainside. Nobody would know because I didn't even tell my son where I was going. I was a single mom at that time. I, when I realized my situation, one could say this is my soul that connected me. It was raining, so I was so nervous. I was wiping the windshield with my hand. That's I was so nervous, but at the same time, I felt this direct energy line, spiritual line, and I just kept wiping the windshield and feeling this really, really strong connection. Maybe 20 minutes passed. The driver stopped and the two men left. And he said they just needed a ride. I said, okay. And then he kept on driving and then he put his hand on my lap and my mom's face came over. She would say, be firm but gracious. In other words, just be calm. So I take his hand and put it back. And he says, what are you doing here by yourself? So I explained to him that I'm here to attend a ceremony, a Mayan ceremony. And, uh, and he goes, oh, and I lied. And I said, I'm married. And he goes, no, you're not. You're, he said, no, you're not. Your husband would not let you come by yourself here. He was right. And I said, but I needed to be here. I needed to be here for this ceremony. And, uh, and then he points and I see Copan. And he drives through these cobblestones into a driveway, and there was Hunbatsman with about 15 people. I've never been so happy to see someone. I barely knew him. And, he hugged me. Oh, Fatima, good to be here. He explains later on that uh, I represented the yellow race, that someone else started the pilgrimage, but crossing over Guatemala, she lost her passport. So I was there to finish the race, the pilgrimage. And all 15 or 16 of us in the, I don't know, 10 by 10 room, had my little backpack with me, found a corner, slept, got up at 3 a.m., put on my white, I have to find those pictures, but put on my ceremonious, what he told us to bring. And we did the ceremony. And then, so I would say That's one of my, you know how for me, I have something in my life that I go to whenever I'm in trouble, and I say, if I was saved then, I am going to be saved now. Because to me, that was a defining time in my life. And in a way, it was actually the beginning of my journey. And this was when I was already working in corporate America. So I would, I'd say, 3, 4 days out of a given month, I would follow my urges, for all these spiritual uh, fulfillment. And they at that time they were pretty adventurous. But I think that's how the soul speaks to us. In such mm, in my case, because I was so trained pretty much with, you know, within my head, that these experiences were so different from what I was accustomed to. And it really brought me to the edge. But it's at the edge where I found my soul. I don't think I would have connected and found my soul and my spirit doing the same things, in front of my computer, although that's probably going to change. But at least for me at that time, it was following these callings. Yeah.
And what happened after this end of the pilgrimage that you went to in Honduras? You said that was the beginning
It
of the
was the
journey. So
beginning. Yeah. It was the beginning because Hunbat said, could you go to Crestone, Colorado, and go find Hannah Strong. Hannah Strong was the wife of Maurice Strong, who was then the ambassador to the UN. They were the caretakers of Baca land in Crestone. And this land was dedicated to a lot of indigenous tribes for their, religion. So in the case of Hunbats, it was going to be to build a Mayan temple there. So he said, could you go find Hannah and give her a message for me? I said, sure. By now, I was already frequenting Taos. I was going to New Mexico once a month, and I would drive from Taos. I drove from Taos to Crestone, which was like another 2.5 hour drive, looking for Hannah Strong. Uh, she was not there. Every time I went, she wasn't there. So I'd come back again. Next trip, I would go again. Still not there. I think the third time, oh, there's Hannah Strong. Hi, Hannah. I am Fatima. Hunbat's man asked me to come meet you. He has a message for you. And Hannah says, oh, hi, how are you? Okay, I want you to go meet John Milton. Okay, who's John Milton? And she goes, you will find his cabin at the foot of, you know, this mountain, and just go meet him. Okay, I drive, I look for John Milton's cabin. I find it, he wasn't there. I leave a little note. And next day at breakfast, this man walks up to me and says, hi, are you Fatima? I'm John Milton. Hi, John. Yes, I'm Fatima. How are you? Who are you? Oh, I lead vision quests. Oh, what is that? This was 1998. So he tells me, he said, "Oh, I want to go." That was the start of the Vision Quest. And in the meantime, I had two colleagues, one of whom, uh, as you know, he lives in Seattle. And one day he calls me up and he says, "Oh, Fatima, have you, I just came across this book on vision quests. And have you done that?" I said, "No, I haven't, but what is it?" Anyway, so then I meet this man, John Milton, who leads Vision Quests.
Right.
So I call up Bob, my friend, and I said, "Bob, you wouldn't believe, but I met this man. His name is John Milton. He leads Vision Quest. I'm thinking of going. Do you want to come?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'm going." So he and one other friend, it was our first Vision Quest in Todos Santos, in Baja. So that, I would say, that's the decade of, truly, it was a 10-year process of, first with Howard Badhand, who's the Lakota Native American teacher. I studied I Ching under him, and then a brief encounter with Hunbats. And he was really more, he was the one who introduced me, of course, to Hannah, who then introduced me to John Milton. It was with John that I studied the longest. So it was almost every year I went on a vision quest with him in Todos Santos, and then in Crestone. And the last one was the 49-day uh, vision quest with him. And then in 2003, I came across uh, Don Yoga, Body and Brain. That's where Jimmy's and mine's paths uh,
Crossed.
connect. Yeah. So uh, it's always been, I think for me, this spiritual quest has always been inside me. I believe it's inside all of us. There, it's not like it's a chosen few. We're all chosen, but so few of us say yes to it. And I do believe that that is what this is all about. You know, a lot of the stories I shared with you, they happened because I said yes. I said yes, yes. Oh, yeah, okay, sure. You know, not really knowing what it's all about. And I think that's how the spirit works in each of us. And it's constantly working, it's constantly tugging. It's just, we're so preoccupied with so many things that we we don't connect with it. We don't recognize it. Yeah.
What was the difference between Don Yoga and Don Meditation, which you described as body and brain, versus
Hmm.
the kind of Lakota and vision quests that you were doing the decade
Hmm.
before?
Yeah, that's also a good question, Ryan. Uh, you know, I first learned about energy through John Milton. He, to me, is an energy master. And of course, through Qigong and all of the other training that he taught us before we went on our own vision quest, we had, depending, like the 49 days, which was in some ways a culmination for me since I did a lot of the 11-day, except for when I went on a vision quest with him to Nepal. That was 23 days. And so there's preparatory training beforehand, learning how to connect with energy, because it's energy that, yeah, to this day, of course, it always has been, but uh, practices so that you can stay awake, you know, and you can still have energy, and instead of being depleted. But so he I would say my very first teacher when it comes to energy. I'd say the main difference is that with Dan Yoga, with body and brain, we really truly work with the body. And I appreciate the fact that, so many people, myself included, have a hard time focusing, being still, is because the body is tense. The body has absorbed so much toxicity, tension, stress. And now you want this body to just be still? Not until you kind of release all of that first. And so to me, the very practical value and difference of body and brain of Dan Yoga is that help meditating first with the physical body, doing exercises to release the tension. And as the tension, disappears, then you can really connect with your mind into your body more if for me more effectively. And so that to me is a big difference in the meditation experience.
In Taoism and in Chinese medicine, we have three dantians, right? The navel center, the heart, and the pineal gland. How are these three energy centers and cauldrons, is how they're described in Taoism?
Mhm.
How are they used in body and brain and in Dan Yoga?
Similarly, actually, similarly. And the thing is that the foundation of all of that is your danjian or dantian, you know, that is the field of energy. And to cultivate that first and foremost. And as you cultivate that, then it's called water up, fire down. Your circulation becomes much more open, which then enables you to open your heart, which then enables you to open your pineal gland. So it is that kind of a system. What first starting with your belly button, with your core, and in the body and brain practice, it is making sure that that is always hot and that enables you to have a cool head because many times in our very stressful lives because we're always thinking energy is trapped from the chest up and that energy gets stuck up here which creates headaches migraines anxiety and energy is not circulating and so often it's because the lower abdomen is weak and it's cold and then so energy is much more on the kind of frozen so to speak and therefore unable to circulate so that's why the practice of maybe Jimmy has showed you of tapping your belly button or tapping your lower abdomen and it's called brainwave vibration that you start to truly create heat and just like boiling water, then soon there's that mist and that cools the head. Very similarly, they're used not any differently at all, and with the Korean method or body and brain. Yeah.
Wonderful. In some meditation systems, say Buddhist, some of the early Buddhist methods, there's not an emphasis on these particular centers, but there's an emphasis on entering these deep meditation states. So it's more like crown chakra and forehead center. But the problem with that is you find a lot of monastics in poor health, even though they have like great spiritual awareness. What's your advice for heating up this dandian and allowing vitality to begin to re-arise in the body?
I think simply by moving your body, you know, moving your body. So Jimmy can tell you this since he trained at the center. So it could be dancing, but very at a very more focused way is to tap your lower abdomen. When I get up, if you can see me, and if you, when I was a student, a new student, uh, my homework was to do 1,000 taps every day.
Whoa, that's some
It's
heat.
like, yeah, but it can go by fast. It just sounds like, oh my God, 1,000. But before you know it, you're at 500, you're at 700. That's a very direct way of heating your lower abdomen. There's so many exercises. The other one is intestine exercises. Okay, so pulling your intestines as close to your belly button and to the back, and then release. Pull, release, pull, release. So now you're activating your whole lower abdomen. And then there are many tools. I'm, I'm almost sure Jimmy has a belly button healing wand. You can see me, right? So it's this tool. So there are many things, but the simplest is to move your body. Shake your waist, tap, make a fist, and
Ex-
tap,
Exercise.
exercise, squats. But the key, I think, for me and for the practice, is to keep bringing your mind to your body.
Mm,
And anybody can tap, but they're thinking of, oh, what am I going to cook later? Or when am I going on this vacation? So your mind is still not in your body. So the most important is your mind is in your body. So feel every tap, feel every intestine pull and push, feel your breath, feel your squats, feel your dancing, feel, bring awareness to your body. And then you can accelerate the process. It's really mind to your body because the body cannot go to the mind. But the nature of the physical body is it's stationary, right? It's right here and now. But the mind, even as we're speaking, your mind could be elsewhere in as much as you're with me. But because the mind can transcend time and space, and so it can leave the body anytime. But the key to spiritual practice is really the connection of the mind and the body as one. And the key to finding our essence is really to go deep inside our body because it is in essence the accumulation of all the information that we have. And so connecting with the body, feeling, like I've said, it's like I had this feeling, I had this deep knowing. And to me, that is the essence of spiritual practice. It's less about the thinking, and but it's more about the connecting and awareness, uh, sensitizing all our senses to be in the here. And to me, that's what it means. The here and now is really in the body.
absolutely. After having done dawn meditation and dawn yoga for so many years, what would you say has happened over the span of a decade or 2 decades? Because when we start at the practice is very different from how it is after 10 years. What is it? What can people expect? I mean, is it fulfillment, happiness, or is it actually much deeper than that?
I would say transformation. And it is ongoing, by the way. It's not like, oh, I've arrived, it is an ongoing process. I would say that for me, in as much as I studied with John and energy, and I think those were all precursors. They helped me to then accelerate my study with body and brain, and helped me to really resonate and grasp at a much quicker pace because I've had some pre-training. But I would say that was really being the headmaster of the center that Jimmy was a member of. I would say that that was the most important time of my working life because it helped me to connect with people as they are and help them, hopefully, in some way, uh, to for them to connect with who they are, who they truly are. When I was in the corporate world, uh, as a director, I've worked with people and have my own department and stuff. But it's so different because we're in a kind of a controlled environment, right? You have to show up, you have to act a certain way. There's some rules and regulations, blah blah blah. So I saw people in a different context, and I worked with them under, of course, the auspices of the corporation. Being at the center and working with people, whoever came in and sat, in front of me, and 5 minutes they were pouring their hearts out. I didn't know them from Adam, but somehow I didn't have to judge that. It was just such a, for me, a privilege to for them to come into my center and they can be who they are, because in the corporate world, we are not who we are. I think that's why, to me, the essence of spirituality is really finding our true essence because we have covered it for so long with all kinds of information, with all kinds of preconceptions. And, uh, and so practicing Dhan Yoga, practicing body and brain helped me to really connect with myself and my true self, my true essence. And I was able to do that by working with others. See, all prior to that, all the adventures, the spiritual adventures, I it was great. I like I said earlier, there was a lot of awakening, but they were mostly for me. And I didn't really get to share them with others. But being a headmaster, it wasn't about me anymore. It was really about the members. And that to me was the greatest thing. And this is why, all these years, Jimmy and I are still connected because it was the connection was beyond uh, it was much more at that spiritual level. Many of the members that I still connect with and see and talk with, uh, it is, I think, because of that. And now I'm into the next chapter. So I'm working on writing a first book, and which I attempted to do 15 years ago. And now I have to find all that work that I did 15 years ago. But now I feel like the next step for me is to be more out there, more out there in the world. And thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today to share some of these experiences, which to me were all about going inside, even though they were all in the outer world. They were really a journey into my own inner world. And now, as I reconnect with that, so I can bring it now again into the outer world. So,
Absolutely. So, in case everyone's wondering, who's Jimmy? Jimmy Blackburn's one of my good friends here in Burbank and in Los Angeles. So that's who Jimmy is, and that's the person that connected Dr. Fatima and I.
mhm.
And a final question before we close up: if you could go back in time to when you first started the whole journey, knowing what you know now, what would you actually tell yourself back then as a crucial piece of advice that you could leave everyone, all the listeners with today?
And that I would still say the same thing, and that is say yes. I would say that. And I think it was actually last year. I thought, okay, my resolution, not last year, because it was COVID year last year, but there was one year, maybe 2018, 2019. I thought, okay, my resolution is just say yes, just say yes. And I think for me, I would say yes to the calling of your soul, say yes to the calling of your heart, say yes to the calling of helping people, say yes to going beyond oneself, uh, even when you don't know what it consists of. Uh, because sometimes the more we know, the more we get blocked. You know, if I knew a lot of those things, then what am I? If I knew I would be in danger in Honduras, of course I wouldn't go. But the fact that I had no idea, but accept this, I gotta go kind of thing. It and then you know somehow trusting I was there for a good purpose, that I'm going to be protected, and I was. So I'd say if you are looking for your soul, say yes, because it is calling you every moment. And even if you don't know what it is, you will find out. You will find out. And it's the answers usually are way more than what you thought they would be. That is the incredible beauty of the unknown. Mm.
Beautiful, beautiful. Dr. Fatima, thank you for coming on to After Awakening. We loved having you and looking forward to talking with you again.
Thank you, Ryan. It was my pleasure. Thanks for your questions that kind of brought me back to a path that was an incredible path. And I'm grateful to have had that journey and still continuing on to the next chapters. All the best to you and the Awakening podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Bye.